So back in this time in 1971, the island of Ibiza was not quite what we see it as today, and I am going somewhere with this, so bear with me. Ibiza was not full of recruitment middle managers, sales directors, Instagram influencers on their holidays in 1971, nor was it the home of Gary Lineker's wayward, prodigal brother who was making a career of hitting on 18-year-olds. It was also not full of Gurners off their nut and MDMA, listening to Richie Hawtin play a set live from an inflatable Lilo in a swimming pool. Essentially, in 1971, no one was paying £60 for a vodka and Red Bull and getting fucked up in amnesia. Instead, in the early 60s, or the late 60s and early 70s, Ibiza and the nearby island Formentera was defined mostly by its relationship to the hippie subculture. So obviously during the 60s and 70s, many Americans wanted to get away from the fighting in the Vietnam War or the other political turmoil in the United States, and they discovered in Ibiza a place in the Mediterranean that had remained relatively isolated from tourism. So meanwhile, after the success of Joni's first 3 albums, songs like Big Yellow Taxi, Woodstock, Both Sides Now, Joni was becoming somewhat of an icon in the folk scene. So, feeling burnt out from all her touring, what did Joni Mitchell decide to do? She went travelling in Europe. So this is where half the album, and perhaps its more upbeat half, is born from. So songs like Carrie and California, All I Want, detail some of the relationships and events and feelings from this Euro trip. Now, this being Joni Mitchell, these were not just songs about like sunshine and the sea and MDMA. They were, if you don't know Joni Mitchell's music well, she's kind of maybe the 1970s equivalent of what Tumblr users were like back in the day. And what I mean by that is that Joni Mitchell just loves to share. Her songwriting and her lyrics are confessional, sometimes brutally so. And after hearing this album, Blue, Chris Christopherson was so worried for her, he sent her a letter saying, like, Jesus, Joni, please just keep something to yourself, protect yourself. Now, Ollie, as a man like yourself who frequently refuses to face or acknowledge his own emotions, what do you make of Joni treating her lyrics as almost like diary entries, albeit very consciously structured and considered diary entries?
Well, I just find it kind of funny because I was fortunate enough to go interrailing after I'd finished school with a few mates for 3 weeks. And, let's just say that the video that we produced at the end wasn't quite on the artistic scale of Blue, but never mind. I think the track maybe that stands out to me in terms of setting the tone for the kind of things that you're talking about, the excitement travelling through Europe, is maybe All I Want. It's the first track. There's obviously darker mediations throughout Blue, but there's also a lot of joy and excitement as well. And I think that song is just an affirmation for me of, why we're alive. I think there's a verse, I want to be strong, I want to laugh along, I want to belong to the living. And you think, yeah, this I don't know, it wakes something up inside you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that kind of leads on to the way that Joni approaches lyricism generally. Like, she was never one of these people who kind of hid her lyrics behind like obscure imagery or some kind of mask. She wasn't like Bob Dylan where, he would kind of play with being different characters or whatever. She was very, very conscious about writing her own experiences and writing them as true to life as she could. So that energy that you're talking about, I think definitely exudes from songs like All I Want and all the other ones from that kind of first half of the album maybe.
Yeah. I find it kind of funny because obviously you were mentioning how Ibiza then was very different to what it is now, and what was the word you used? IT middlemen and things like that.
Yeah, like recruitment managers as well.
Recruitment.
Yeah.
So this is quite funny. So there's a song on there called Carrie, which I'd probably say is one of my favourite songs on the entire album, which is written about a fella that Joni met when she was in Crete, I believe, and I think he owned a local tavern where she used to go drinking and whatnot. And I like to think if Joni Mitchell wrote a song about me, then I'd probably have to have a little something about me. I'd be an interesting, charismatic person. And I was kind of interested. I was like, I wonder who this Carrie person is. I wonder what they're doing now. So I did a little bit of research. I'm going to read you a quote from the Wall Street Journal, and I'm not sure you're going to be able to believe this, Jamie.
All right, go on.
So when Joni Mitchell met Carrie Raditz in early 1970, he was living in a cave in Matala, Crete. Today, he lives in Maryland and is an institutional investment strategist focusing on international non-profits.
What?
What do you think of that? That's not me, that's the Wall Street Journal, so it's hopefully a reputable source.
I mean, I guess it kind of sums up like how the boomer generation has fucked all of us, because like they in their youth they got to go live in a cave in Crete, and then as soon as they like reached an age, they just joined the establishment and started working as stockbrokers and shit like that, and then fucking the rest of us.
How
so.
funny is that?